Okay, let's see what the market is saying at intraday. Let's cross over now to London, where my colleague Juliana Blanca is standing by to give us all the details. Good afternoon, Juliana. So bring us up to speed with how the markets are trading at this time.
Good afternoon, Chimeze. Well, the FTSE at intraday has lost most of the gains that it had at early trading. Of course, I suppose the incredible levels of volatility that we saw a couple of weeks ago is possibly behind us. But, you know, COVID-19 anxiety is still very, very high. Anything can trigger the markets. At intraday, the FTSE all-share is down 1.17%. The FTSE 100 also down by 0.87%. The FTSE 250, the domestic market, that's down by a whopping 3.36%. Now, in currencies, the pound down on the dollar again by 0.35%, up on the euro slightly by 0.25%, and down on the Japanese yen by 0.39%. It's worth mentioning, Chimmy, that the tobacco companies are doing pretty well at the moment. British American Tobacco, their shares are up by 2.4%, and Imperial Brands, they've just got a new lease of credit facilities worth a whopping £3 billion, and their shares were up 15% at intraday.
And British Airways has suspended all flights from Gatwick, and of course London Heliport announced a temporary closure over the coronavirus. This crisis must be hitting the aviation sector in the UK real hard, right?
Well, absolutely, not just in the UK, but across the world. IAG, they're the mother company of British Airways. Just a couple of weeks ago, they did say that in the months of April, May and June, their airline capacity would be down by 75%. And I suppose this is kind of one of the first big waves of that. They did announce earlier today that they would be no longer serving Gatwick airports with flights to and from Gatwick. Gatwick is the second busiest airport in the UK, and they're not really the first airline to do so. So many of them have followed suit. Of course, earlier in the week, EasyJet, budget airline, they also said that they wouldn't be serving Gatwick or any airport in the UK as it grounded its 330 flights. And this is something that we're seeing constantly as airlines across the world are battling with COVID-19 and all of the lockdown measures that we've seen in over 100 countries. Just last week, London City Airport, which is quite a small airport, but it still does some long-haul journeys, but lots of short-haul journeys around Europe. They closed their doors because they weren't seeing the airlines coming in and they couldn't afford to pay their staff. And also as well, Southend, which is a very small airport just east of London in the Essex region, they're only operating for 3 days a week during particular periods. So yes, it's not great, especially for the staff. We know many of them will be getting their wages through this new government scheme, which seeks to pay about 80% of your wages, up to £2,500. But yet, BA have made this decision, and it'll be interesting to see if any other airlines follow suit later on in the week.
And March was a grim time for investors, but a record month for the UK supermarkets. Data from Kantar has reported that grocery sales surged by 20.6% in the 4 weeks to the 22nd of March. Any idea what drove that growth?
Well, I suppose it doesn't take a wild guess to know that it was stockpiling, and this COVID-19 pandemic, everybody in the media is really talking about this shocking stockpiling that's been going on in the UK, particularly as a lot of bin men have noticed that most of this food is going straight in the bin because people are buying so much food that they could barely not eat it. And yes, this data has shown that last month, well, no, the 4 weeks to the end of March were the busiest 4 weeks in history for British shopping, busier than it would be at Christmas. Each household in the UK spent an estimated £63 more at the grocery till. And there was one particular week that everyone's talking about between March the 16th, which was a Monday, and Thursday, March the 19th. Now, this was the week when Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister, told everybody to start working from home. Apparently 88% of people visited supermarkets that week. So it's a shocking figure. And of course, since making this announcement, or since this data was released, most of the big four have seen their shares surging. But of course, the government have since put in a lot of procedures to stop people from stockpiling. But, you know, at the moment, any data showing that there's growth in the UK is a good thing. But I'm not sure those figures will be replicated next month, Chimaze.
We'll wait and see that. Thank you for your time, Juliana.